All right, welcome everyone. It's good to see you here. For those of you, how many new people do we have today? One. Good. Only one today. Okay, we've been having a few more. I haven't been here for a couple weeks, so I apologize. You know, between travel and kids' baseball games, you know, it's been a little hectic. So glad you guys are here. What we'd like to do real quick. I'm going to have to call people out back there. Yeah. What we like to do real quick, see, I'm not afraid to do that. Real quick is just a real brief introduction. What we like is first name. If you're on the program, talk about how much weight you've lost. Don't tell us how long it's been, you know, number of weeks or months, just how much you've lost. If you're at your goal weight, this is the important stuff. How long have you been at your goal weight? And anything significant like, are you off medications? Did you just run your first marathon? Or walk your first flight of stairs? Whatever the thing is, right? So real quick, so I'm Dr. Arnold. I lost 8 pounds 7 years ago. I know. It would have been great if it was like 108, but you know what? I learned how to eat, and I learned how to be healthy, and that's the important thing. So.
I'm Sandy, and I've been on a program, and I had that last 10-pound
your 10-pound cushion.
And so, so I lost it, and I went to the doctor. I'm not on medication, and now I have to continue to remember and learn how to eat on maintenance.
It's a process, right?
Yeah.
We're always getting better. It's the journey. It's not the destination.
Right.
We constantly are working on it. So good job. Off medication. That's great.
I'm Robin, and I've lost 8 pounds.
Good job, Robin.
And I haven't been on it very long.
Getting started.
I'm just getting started.
Good for you. We're glad you're here.
Shannon, and I lost 20, but now I've only lost 19. So
That's okay. It's okay to have a little fluctuation.
And I no longer have high cholesterol. So
that's a good thing. That's important.
That's the biggie.
Yes, definitely.
I'm Kathy. I was ill on the program. So far I've lost 11 pounds, and I just discovered this week my blood pressure, my diastolic is down about 10, my systolic's down about 20.
You know, it always just amazes me how quick we see success like that. You know, even after a week or two on the program, it's like someone's gotten into our blood work and just scrubbed our little blood cells clean. We have such great results so quickly. We see things like blood pressure coming down, blood sugars normalizing within a week or two. It's pretty amazing. So congratulations. 11 pounds, that's great.
My name's Dana, and I'm down 18.
Good job, Dana.
My name's Amanda. I'm down 14.
Way to go, Amanda.
I'm Tina, down 23, and my teenage daughter is down 19.
That's right. That's pretty awesome. Just went on a choir trip and was a good example on that.
And lost 3 pounds on the choir trip.
That's what's impressive.
That's impressive.
Yeah.
I'm Sherry, and I've lost 28 pounds, and I went to the doctor last week, and they've been doing blood tests on me because I've been on borderline diabetes and all this sort of stuff. He said everything was really looking good. He was really, and I talked to him about the program, and he asked me questions and wanted me to respond once a month to him on different things, you know, to kind of
keep tabs on you. Yeah. You know, I talked to a PA in Meridian last week. One of the people that I'm helping to get healthy, they're down 107 pounds. He's not here tonight, but he went in for a follow-up, and the PA, the physician's assistant, was just freaking out because people just don't do that, you know, and let alone keep it off. You know, and this is a gentleman who was diabetic and had other issues and was able to lower a lot of those medications. So
I've had on and off problems with several things since I had cancer a few years back. and they've been having trouble keeping me in the right mode of things without either having diarrhea or, you know, I just go bang, 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 and haven't had any problems since I've been on the program.
We give our bodies good nutrition, and it can go a long way to healing itself. You know, get rid of a lot of the bad stuff in there, the inflammation, the issues that we're dealing with. Good job. Way to go.
I'm Sally, and I've lost 27 pounds, and I'm on maintenance now. My cholesterol dropped from 272 to 150.
That's awesome.
And I was thrilled with that.
That's awesome. Good job. Good job.
I'm Helen. I lost 75 pounds off 8 medications for type 2 diabetes and high blood pressure.
For those of you who didn't hear that, she's off 8 medications.
Wow.
Which is so common today. You know, we're given medications, and then we're given a medication to treat the symptoms of that medication. Then we need something else to treat the symptoms of that one. So that is incredible.
I'm Donna. I've lost 19 pounds.
Great job, Donna.
I'm Deb, and I lost 40 pounds 9 months ago. So
You've kept it off for 9 months now?
Yeah.
Way to go. Almost to your anniversary. That's great.
Rosemary, I've lost 22 pounds. I'm going to the weekend. I don't have my bags packed, but I don't have to pack.
Awesome. You know what? And that's really, I think, probably the biggest thing that we want people to learn is just be aware, be prepared, because when you're prepared and you have it, you're less likely to get yourself in trouble. Less likely, because sometimes I find a way to get in trouble a lot of times, even when I am prepared. But, you know, great job. I'm glad to hear that.
I'm Brenda. I lost 50 pounds 3.5 years ago.
Great job, Brenda.
I'm Sean. I've lost 52 pounds, and I'm off my diabetes medication.
Great job. That's awesome. Congratulations. Were you on orals or on injectables? Orals? We see those disappear pretty quickly on the program. Great job. Kristen?
I'm Kristen, and I didn't lose a lot of weight, but I learned how to eat. Yeah.
Very important.
Which I didn't eat. No, I didn't eat. It was a lot easier not to eat than to.
Doug, I lost over 40 pounds. I've dropped for 7 years.
I didn't realize it was that long. That's awesome. Congratulations.
Curtis, I lost 30 pounds 4 years ago.
30 pounds 4 years ago.
Craig, I've lost 85 about a year ago.
Great job. Nice.
Caroline, I lost 18 pounds my first week, so just going to my second week right now.
Results not typical, but thank you. Great job. That's a little bit of a shocker when you jump on the scale there.
First thing I did was text my coach and say, how was that possible?
Yeah. That's exciting. That was an exciting morning.
I'm Laurel, I'm down 6.
Great job, Laurel. That's right.
That's a hard one to follow.
And you're doing the Nursing Mothers program, right? You know, a lot of people don't know we have so many different programs. We have a seniors program and a diabetic program, a teen program, the Nursing Mothers program, a bariatric program. You know, we just have a lot of different programs so that we can help everyone where they're at. And, you know, that's what I love about this is anyone can get healthy at any time. It's never too late.
Tom, about 55 pounds, and I guess I'm through transition now, working on maintenance.
Yeah. Awesome. And you know what? And I was talking to Tom. Tom's probably only missed like one class in the last 8 months. He's missed far fewer classes than I have. So, Leilani?
I'm Leilani, and I've lost 30. I have leukemia, and it is in remission, and I plan to keep it that way.
That's right. One of the week 10 we talk about inflammation and how important it is to control inflammation, because inflammation is one of those things that speeds up the aging cycle, increases our risk for things like cancer, as well as other autoimmune type diseases and disorders. But you know, if you keep doing what you're doing, and you've just dropped your risk of having that reoccur drastically. So, great job. That's not the first person I've made cry at these things. So, and that was 100 pounds, and you've kept it off for 10 months? Kept it off. Awesome. Great job. Great job.
I'm Joe, and I'm down 9 pounds.
Great job, Joe. Congratulations. And we have Connor in the very back who's trying to gain weight because he's young and doesn't know anything yet. But he's here learning. And that's what's important. You know, it's never too early to bring anybody to learn. I think one of the things that I love most about doing what I do now is my kids are learning how to eat right. So they're going to have a great foundation of what healthy eating is before they leave our house, rather than getting out on their own and, you know, realizing they have Krispy Kreme around the corner this way and they've got McDonald's around the corner that way, and they should have stock in both companies, right? Which, you know, the freshman 15, I think, in recent years has turned into the freshman 45, and, you know, kids get out on their own and they really don't know how to make healthy choices. And so it's never too early or too late to create health, which is really, I think, an important thing. So I really like today's class. Last week we talked a little bit about controlling energy intake. We talked a little bit about managing our insulin pump, right? Does anyone remember what insulin does? Why insulin is so important? Don't be afraid. Okay, I'll cover it again. That's everybody's only pass. I'll call on everyone next time. So we're going to talk a little bit about that. Why insulin, how the food we eat affects insulin production and what that does to us, okay? But in the first 3 weeks, we really talked about managing this, our brain. Several of us in here were at a wonderful health coach training in Dallas, Texas this last weekend. We learned so many good things. One of the things we talked about, though, Dr. Anderson, who wrote the book, The Habits of Health, is coming out with a new book June 1st. It's called Discovering Your Optimal Health. And it is all about this. The hardest part to change, right? You know? I can't wait to get the book. I wish we could have got copies. I probably would have read it already. We didn't get anything, though. We got to wait for you. You know, all of us can go buy it June 1st. It'll be on the bookshelves. I think they're going to have it at Barnes & Nobles and Hastings and all these places. So,
What's the name again?
Discovering Your Optimal Health. We will talk a lot about it. We'll be doing some stuff around that as we get closer to the time. So it's really the prelude to the habits of health. You know, and we're going to be approaching it that way, and we'll have classes on that as well. We'll expand probably these first 3 classes to really go more into into that book a little bit deeper, because really it is. It's all about that, isn't it? You know, if we can flip that switch here, suddenly the food tastes better. It's easier to eat. We don't get discouraged. We can control the cravings, right? You know. It just doesn't matter some of those little things, because really if we've made the switch effectively enough, it doesn't matter if we're chewing on a cardboard box 6 times a day, and if we're there to lose weight and get healthy, if that's what I need to do, I do it, right? So we have some work to do to flip that switch a little better. You know, the point is, well, it's the premise behind that example there. But, you know, really, it's going to really help us understand the mental part of creating health, which is the hardest part. So I'm really excited about that. Okay, so today we're covering chapters 8, 9, and 10 in Dr. Anderson's book, Dr. A's Habits of Health. We're going to also cover lesson 9 in the workbook, the companion guide that goes along with it. Our references, as always, are thehabitsofhealth.net, Dr. Anderson's website, as well as mytsfl.com. That's a great site for you to be able to log your meals, keep your food journal, contact other people who are on the program, really create a support system there. There's a lot of other things that are available for you, and all these things are free, which is just great. So let's dive right in. When we talked about insulin last week, the important thing to remember about insulin is When insulin levels are high, our body is in what? Fat storage mode. When our insulin levels are low, we're in fat burning. Or at least we utilize the carbohydrates, the energy we bring into our body, we utilize that as energy right now. And there's nothing left over to go into storage. Okay? So fat is a storage system, an energy storage system. We just have an endless capacity to store energy. That's why we have 1,000-pound people, right? Now, there's other energy storage systems that our body has. Muscle, my storage system's not so great. I'm working on it. Getting there, you know. And then glycogen is another energy storage system, primarily stored in our liver and some in our muscles. Glycogen is what we think about when we get our second wind. So it's what we call, it's the energy system of the parasympathetic response. In other words, the fight or flight mechanism, you see the saber-toothed tiger, you need extra energy to run real fast, you get it from glycogen. Okay? You know, when you're almost in that car accident and you're just like, you got energy just flowing through you, that's glycogen. Okay? So there's 3 energy systems. We want to know how to get rid of the fat energy system. And that's what being on the program does for us. So when we keep energy or insulin levels low, we're able to utilize that fat storage system, that energy storage, or if we're already at our goal weight, we're able to prevent ourselves from adding to our energy storage system by overeating. So how does that work exactly? We're going to dive into the glycemic index. So every food is rated, and we compare everything to glucose. So in other words, sugar. Sugar is the standard that everything is based off of. So when we look at it, we have this sugar spike in our blood. It happens about 30 minutes after we eat something. Okay, so we eat a cube of sugar. 30 minutes later, it hits its highest level. Now, when we look at a glycemic number, we look at that item like a lentil, a bean, as it compares to sugar. So a lentil has 28% of the curve of sugar, so the glycemic index rating number is 28. Does that make sense? It's pretty simple, right? Now, what happens is when we eat a high glycemic or high glucose meal, we get this red dotted line here is insulin secretion. So high blood glucose levels, we're going to get a big insulin response. In other words, there's a lot of sugar in our blood. We need a lot of insulin to take that out so our body can use it or store it. When we have a low glycemic meal, we get a lower insulin response because we just don't need as much. Over time, when we do this and our insulin levels stay high like this, a couple things can happen. Our pancreas can wear out, so we're not producing insulin like we used to, or our body becomes resistant to the effects of insulin. It doesn't recognize it as well. There are little receptors on the cell where insulin attaches to open the door and let the glucose in. Those just don't work as well. What do we call that disease when we have either of those issues? We call it diabetes, right? So doing this, first of all, can lead to health issues. Second of all, what happens is we're constantly packing away the excess energy we bring in as fat stores. The third thing that happens is when our insulin levels are high like this, it's going to pull every bit of sugar it can out, and so we drop below our baseline glucose level. Can anyone tell me what happens down here when it bottoms out? What was that? Cravings. How many of you, after Thanksgiving dinner, crave pie and ice cream? There's no room in there, right? I know. I eat a lot on Thanksgiving. That's about the only day. Well, maybe not the only day, but one of the very few days that I eat a big meal. And consequently, eating a big meal once or twice a year is not a bad thing. Eating a big meal once or twice a day is a bad thing. There's a big difference there, right? So, yeah, cravings come here. We feel, have any of you guys ever felt like you're feeling lightheaded, you're feeling flush, like, oh, I gotta get something in me to get my energy up, right? So we grab that bagel or the candy bar or the something, the soda. That's what happens down there. Now what happens when we eat a low glycemic meal, so we're getting just normal kind of insulin levels. We never drop below baseline, our blood sugar level, the baseline sugar level. And so we don't have those cravings. How many of you who have been on the program over a week notice that your cravings disappeared? And I know not everyone does, but for the majority of people, when you're in fat burning, your cravings disappear because, I used to have another slide right there. Maybe it's, all right. I used to have another slide right there that showed what it looked like when you were on the program. And it's even more, it's kind of like this all the way across with one of those at the very end. That's the 5-in-1 program. So what happens is our cravings go away because we're controlling insulin, right? Yes?
If you eat a high glycemic, whatever that word is.
Glycemic, yes.
Glycemic vegetable, will it dip into that?
Now, one thing that we're not going to talk about today is there's a difference between glycemic index and glycemic load. Okay? Most vegetables are not high glycemic, by the way. There are starchy vegetables that are higher glycemic for sure. Our potatoes and things like that. Brussels sprouts, you shouldn't eat those anyway. My wife loves them actually. Anyway, there's if you eat too much of a good thing, also you increase the glycemic load to the point that you can have a high insulin spike. So when you are eating proper portion sizes and the right kinds of things, you won't have that issue. But that's a great question. Did you have something, Brenda? Okay, I thought I saw another hand.
I got a question.
Yeah.
Why is the baseline insulin higher than the baseline glucose, but yet the blood glucose is always higher than the insulin?
That's a good question. So the question is, for those online, why is baseline insulin higher than baseline glucose, yet baseline blood sugar, or the blood sugar levels are always higher than the insulin levels?
At least the peaks.
Right, the peaks are. Well, what happens is once you start secreting insulin, it's going to drop this. Your body, it responds. Your body produces insulin based on how high this rises. So if it stops here, you're going to get a smaller spike. It takes time. So your body reads the sugar level. It starts to produce the insulin. Insulin is very effective at getting sugar out, so you'll never really have that go higher. Well, there are metabolic diseases that happens, but under normal eating circumstances, it doesn't happen. We do have a baseline insulin level because if we're up here in our blood sugar and we never get enough insulin, that's another type of metabolic disease where your body is, that's what we refer to most often known as type 1 diabetes, where your body's just not producing insulin the way it should. So we read a baseline insulin level. We want to make sure that you're getting enough insulin to effectively pull what you're eating out of the system. Baseline glucose level is lower. If it stays too low too often, there's all sorts of issues. You can pass out. You'll lose a lot of. Your brain won't function. So we get kind of a psychological issues when it stays too low for too long. Don't go home and tell your spouse that that's what they've got going on. That they're not, you must always be below baseline sugar levels, because I learned, don't do that. Tom?
So you go and eat something like a big piece of cake that's loaded with whipped cream and all that kind of stuff.
That's going to shoot up.
So that shoots that up. And you do that today.
Mm-hmm.
for a week, you want a piece of cake. Sometimes you get into it in habit, which prolongs it. Now it's 2 weeks. But these cravings are sitting there nagging at you. And is that physiological, or is that just a mental game that you're doing, playing with yourself? After you've only had the one piece, but for a week you're dealing with the craving.
Yeah.
2 or 3 days.
The answer is yes. It is both. So the question was, you know, we eat a piece of cake, something very high glycemic, we get a big sugar spike, our insulin comes in, it creates other cravings. So we have those cravings for a week. You know, it can be a psychological issue. You know, keep in mind that, you know, well, think about this. When I say Edward Theater, what did you just think about? Okay. So there is a very there's a very psychological habit that can form. You know, my wife has that big time with family events. She can remember like what we had for family activities years ago. You remember when we had this, whatever it is? I mean, I don't even remember what I had for lunch today. I can't remember years ago. But she can, I mean, it forms these psychological memories that resurface when you put yourself back in the situation. So part of it is, it's a psychological thing, but part of it is when you have insulin levels high for a while, it does take time for your body to retrain yourself out of that. You can't eat high insulin, high glycemic today and have high insulin levels. Tomorrow eat low and have no cravings. It does take a little bit of time. Tom and then Doug.
So as a follow-up, you eat something like simple carbs, a lot of simple carbs or whatever, and a half hour later you fall asleep in the chair, because this has been my whole life.
Mm-hmm.
And you wake up 30 minutes later and you're not a happy kind of person, you're a cranky guy. What's going on there?
Well, there's a couple different things that it has to do with insulin, and it has to do with energy distribution, but it also has to do with when you take naps like that for a period of time, your body starts to actually shut down like you would normally do it at night, and that's the groggy feel when you take a nap. I mean, power naps for 10 minutes are great, 15 minutes. When you sleep for too long and your body actually starts to slow when we sleep at night, your metabolism starts to slow, your core body temperature starts to slow down. You are literally powering down. And so when you wake back up too early or after an hour nap or, you know, whatever, we're all kind of different, it takes that groggy feeling, that's us start having to power back up, getting our metabolism going, getting our core body temperature. You just feel like you're kind of in a fuzz there.
So is it mostly the simple carbs that will do that? I mean, is that...
Everyone's different on that one. It could be a product of falling asleep. It could be, you know, it could be
the meal replacements and that sort of, that won't trigger that.
No, it won't. Doug?
About 8 years ago, I got diagnosed with severe insulin resistance, and when I met with the diabetic doctor and went over the test, and they actually had it was like a 3-hour test, and actually timed the amount of time it took for my blood sugar level to get down to the baseline, which is, you know, what the score was.
Mm-hmm.
And then he actually had a big research department and wrote some articles and stuff, but he scared me to death about heart disease, about this pattern of yo-yoing up and down. I mean, every time that you eat a little or high carbohydrate, your insulin spikes. And when you're insulin resistant, what happens is your body's producing 2, 3, 4 times more insulin than normal, because, you know, what happens is it just keeps producing insulin until your blood sugar comes down, is your blood pressure actually spikes, and that is actually some research as far as that's the beginning stages of heart disease, because if you think about a hose and you turn the hose way up, that's where the pressure starts making tears in your arteries, and where it starts the beginning process of heart disease. And so, you know, more so than just, you know, storing fat, there's a lot more things that are happening when you're on that.
There's a lot of metabolic processes. Insulin has an effect on nitrous oxide. It actually lowers the amount of nitrous oxide. Nitrous oxide is a vasodilator. It opens up your blood vessels, which would lower your blood pressure. So when nitrous oxide drops, those vessels constrict, increasing your blood pressure, causing the issues that you're talking about. So, and it can happen fairly rapidly with some people. So you're exactly right. I mean, the point here is there's a lot of things that can happen when we don't eat lower glycemic meals. You know, we're talking mostly about controlling energy storage. We want to make sure we're utilizing that energy that we put in a healthy way, getting ourselves to a healthy weight, right? So the rule of thumb we're going to look at a lot of different charts. You can download these at Dr. Anderson's habitsofhealth.net site. But what we're going to do is a little quiz first. We're going to kind of go rapidly. If you've already taken the quiz, you know, just don't tell anyone else the answers, all right? So based on what we've seen so far, just take a wild guess. Rate these real quick in highest to lowest. And then I'm going to show you
What's the middle one?
this one, cooked carrots. Sorry, raw carrots, cooked carrots, watermelon, dried apricots, rice cakes, and a Snickers candy bar. What's the highest glycemic down to the lowest glycemic? What do you think? I'm going to flip. You guys ready? Were you guys right?
No.
All right. I'm going to give you another chance. And I'm going to tell you why these things are here in just a moment, all right? Okay, a ribeye steak. Oh, yeah, you know, that's fatty, juicy. That's good stuff right there. Almonds, cooked peas, raspberry, whatever those are. Thank you. I don't eat those. Steel cut oats. That's my breakfast this morning. I had steel cut oats.
So highest, we're still going the glycemic thing? Is that what we're supposed to be?
What's the highest glycemic? Rate those. You know, so, you know, like 1, 2, 3. I'm throwing you off. Don't say that. Not number 1, okay? Anyway, highest to lowest. Are you ready? One more. Yams, instant oatmeal, French fries. I think it's got the skin on the outside. Zucchini, Frosted Flakes, and a pineapple. Are you ready? Did you get it right?
It's not intuitive.
All right, let me tell you what. Let's talk about this a little bit, okay? Now, I'm just going to rifle through a few of these here. What makes something lower glycemic? Here's the whole trick. Yeah, it's green. It's in green on the charts. That's what makes it low glycemic. Great answer. I didn't expect that. Typically, the lower glycemic index, first of all, if it's got carbohydrates, does protein or fat have carbohydrates? No. Typically, right? The Atkins diet is a 0 glycemic rating diet at the first phase where you're not doing any vegetables. And that's why people lose weight very quickly. It puts them into a fat burning mode. It's just not effective or sustainable long term, right? Also, the other rules are the harder it is for your body to digest it, the lower glycemic it is. So what are some things that are difficult for our body to digest? Some macronutrients. So I'm going to give you one macronutrient, protein. If it's got protein in it, it's going to be lower in the glycemic index. That Snickers candy bar up there, I should add a Milky Way candy bar right next to it, because aren't those are pretty much the same candy bar, right? I mean, a little bit extra caramel. What's the difference though? Peanuts. The Snickers is much lower in the glycemic index because of the peanuts. Okay? It added a little protein to it. So it lowered the glycemic value. So protein is one. Can you think of another thing, another macronutrient, another thing that would lower the glycemic index? Fiber. Great job. Fiber. So typically you're going to find things that are high in fiber are going to be low in the glycemic index. That's why our vegetables and fruit typically are lower glycemic index. Not all of them, but typically they are. Now, a couple other things. The more processed they are, the higher glycemic it is. So let's look at the process of going from a steel-cut oat to the box of instant microwavable oatmeal. We've got 4 products. We've got steel-cut oats, we've got old-fashioned oatmeal, we've got instant 1-minute oatmeal, right? And then we've got the microwavable packages, right? We've got 4 different things. As it gets more and more processed, it gets lower and lower higher and higher in the glycemic index. Thank you. Thanks for keeping me on track, guys. So the more it's broken down for you prematurely, in other words, if it's easier to cook, it takes less time, they've taken out the protein and the fiber and the other important things, which if it's in a box, they've probably done that, haven't they? It's going to be high in the glycemic index. And that's not even looking at the calories and fat and the other issues that can affect fat storage also. Is this starting to make a little bit of sense with glycemic index? We really want to help you start to be able to just glance at something and go, that meal's I got good protein, I got good fiber, only a little bit of carbs in my complex carb there. I got wild rice. That's a great low glycemic overall meal. That's what we really want you to start to be able to do, as opposed to, I got my 12-inch plate full of spaghetti and I got a meatball on top. Pretty high carb, right? That's carb loading for our runners and bikers. Chris?
Well, I was just going to point out that my wife and I, one of the biggest things we've struggled with is not overcooking things. Dr. A talks a lot about al dente.
You're getting ahead of us, Chris.
Oh, sorry.
We'll get there. You're exactly right, though.
My point was, is you keep talking about processed stuff, you can overly process things or something.
Exactly. That's exactly it. And we'll hit that. So let's just run through a few of these things. High glycemic foods. When you look at these things, watermelons, pretty high. I mean, less fiber in these compared to up here. When we look at beans and nuts, all low glycemic. Now, what it doesn't, don't go solely off of the glycemic index, because nuts, what are they high in? Fat. You've got to keep that under control too. We'll talk about that here a little bit. So you've got to be careful. Use this as a guide, a general guide, to start making better choices, leaner things, lower glycemic, and it makes it easier to keep the weight off as you get there. So we've got cereals, breads, quinoa. When we look at a few of these things, here's our oatmeal from steel-cut oats. And then we've got, refined cereals. Where's my instant? Can anyone see my instant oatmeal? I don't see it. Okay. I think the instant microwavable oatmeal is in the 90s. I think it's 92. Compared to a steel-cut oat at 58. Quite a bit of difference the more we process it, right? So here's sweet potatoes compared to other potatoes here, are mashed or are instant boiled and peeled. So the more we process it, actually let me go back because there was one that I wanted to show. Vegetables, let's see. Cooked carrots here at 80 versus raw carrots at 30. What made the difference there? What did the heat do? It breaks down fibers. It makes it, if it's mashy, it's like that okra my grandma boiled to death. It just was, I wish I'd have known. I'd have said, I can't eat that. It's too high in the glycemic index. I would have saved myself a horrible childhood experience. All right. And other guidelines here. So things to consider, again, most protein has no carbohydrates, so it's going to have a glycemic index rating of 0. Using vinegar and lemon juice or pickling your vegetables, eating sourdough, it slows down the digestion of starch, lowering the glycemic index. So anytime we slow down the process of Digestion, it's going to lower the glycemic index. Here's what Chris was talking about. Cooking pastas and oatmeals al dente slows the digestion process. Using stone ground flours over finely milled flours. How many of you guys grind your own flour? I do. There's typically, you can change how finely that flour is ground. I know we can on ours. And you can certainly buy it in the store not as finely ground. So get the stone ground. It's going to have coarser particles, and it's actually going to lower the glycemic index on it. Combining low glycemic foods with high glycemic foods lowers the overall glycemic content of the meal. So if you are going to have a little carbohydrate, make sure when you're in maintenance, not when you're on the program, right? Make sure you've got your protein. Make sure you've got your fruits and vegetables. Chris?
I was going to say, so if you're cooking with flour, how much of a difference is there between whole wheat and your regular flour?
I don't know what the glycemic rating was. I don't know if it was on there. I'll have to look that up. That's a good question.
Well, you were talking about you grind your own, so is that much better than the whole wheat, or that's the same thing?
It's the same thing, price.
Actually, it's not. You do you grind your own, and you keep all the oils. When they do it in the store, they take all the oils out, the healthy oils.
Yeah, there's actually a little more processing to that.
You have to actually refrigerate it or freeze it, or it'll spoil fast. So realistically, to grind your own, or grinding your own, you can pick your kernels, and then you can also have healthier, really good wheat. They took out from the stores. They took out all the good stuff.
Yeah.
They always do.
It's the processing of it. Yeah. We just grind enough to use for whatever we're doing right then.
Well, they do it mostly so that it'll stay on the shelf and it doesn't spoil. That's
right.
really what it comes down to.
Yeah, well, and that's exactly it. It preserves it. We only grind a little bit at a time because, if I leave it in the kernel, it lasts for, wheat, if it's properly stored, can last, well, they say 30 years, but really they found it 50, 60 years old and it's still viable. So,
you don't have to put it in the fridge or freezer, it goes bad.
Right. If you grind it, use it. Exactly. Controlling so basically with this, one of the things we really want to start to think about is our portion sizes. Portion sizes are just way too big these days. That's, I've seen some studies say that portions are up between 2 and 7 times more than we're eating portions 2 to 7 times larger than we did in 1970. On average, we're eating about between 200 and 500 calories extra per day. How many of you guys remember what, in 1 year, how much weight we would gain if it was all just strictly mathematics, if we had 100 extra calories per day? 10 pounds. Now, I don't believe in the strictly mathematics thing because calories are not all created equal. So I think there's a big difference between healthy calories and unhealthy calories. So don't just go on calories in, calories out. We'll educate you through the process that it's much more than that. But here's an interesting thing. Only 6.5% of the increase in calories come from healthy things like fruits and vegetables, meats, nuts, dairy, and eggs. Where are they coming from? Carbohydrates, processed foods, sugar, yeah. The wrong things. Right. 25% of Americans eat fast food every day today. I think that's actually was in 2006. I think the number is quite a bit higher today. So what we really want you to start to learn about is the 9-inch plate rule. Think about your grandma's fine china that she has put away. Those little tiny plates that look like, salad plates. That's a 9-inch plate. Now we have what she would have said was the serving platter. That's our normal plate. And so, eating a normal portion size, it looks so lonely on that big plate. So we put more to keep it company, right? It looks better when it's full. At least that's what we're trained to think. It's a lot harder to get correct portion sizes when we're using a big plate because we tend to fill up the plate. And then what do we do? Because we were taught so well by our parents. Clean your plate. Eat everything. And of course, at my house, you were taught if you liked it, well, if you didn't like it, you had seconds. If you liked it, you could have thirds. That's what I learned. Not a healthy habit. So, really, we just need to watch our portion sizes. And when we start to, and this is in maintenance, 50% of that plate should be your fruits and vegetables. 25% should be your lean protein, and 25% your starches or your carbohydrates, preferably complex carbohydrates like whole wheat bread or wild rice or yams versus the mashed potatoes. You know, mashed yams versus mashed regular potatoes, much different in the glycemic index. So you really want to pay attention to that, because what do we have here? High fiber, lots of protein. We eat this way and we're going to have a low glycemic meal. And you don't have to worry that you had mashed potatoes or you had a roll or you had something, because everything else was so good. As long as you don't have 3 rolls and mashed potatoes, or have, you know, our carbohydrates with protein and a vegetable. That wouldn't be so good. All right, and that's just another picture of it. So healthy fats and oils. We're going to talk a lot more about this here. The biggest thing that we really want to consider is, with this study that was done with consumption of fats based on calories, it looks like today we actually dropped in our consumption of fat, right? It's actually kind of it's misleading. We're actually eating more fat, but because we're eating a lot more calories, our fat now is a smaller percentage of our overall caloric intake during the day. We're eating a lot more carbohydrates is the issue that we're dealing with here. When we look at unhealthy fats versus healthy fats, this one is kind of controversial. Saturated fat, the Atkins diet proved that. Actually, when people do the first phase of the Atkins diet, which is all fat and protein, what happened to their cholesterol? It went down. But as soon as they added carbohydrates back to their diet, it just skyrocketed, didn't it? So really, saturated fats, and I'm not saying, you know, eat all ribeyes now. I'm saying you want to watch your fats, because if you don't have a lean carbohydrate diet, those carbohydrates are going to have a bad effect on those saturated fats. Hydrogenated fats, partially hydrogenated vegetable oils, what they do overall is they create inflammation in our body. Inflammation is not good. That's bad stuff. Try to switch to healthy fats. Our omegas, omega-3, omega-6, and omega-9. Remember with the omega-6 is it's in all processed food. We get way too much of it. When it's in a healthy balance of 1-to-1 up to 1-to-3, it can be anti-inflammatory and it can be very healthy for us. Unfortunately, the American diet, we're eating at about 1-to-25, 1-to-30. And when we're eating omega-6 fats at that high of a level, they're very unhealthy for us. They're very inflammatory at that point. So always have a plan. I think that's really the biggest thing, just like you're already prepared with your food. You know, have a plan. Know what you're going to do when you go out. How many of you guys brought your bar with you? Because it's going to be a little while before you can get dinner. Great. You got to have your plan, right? You got to be prepared. Because what if you driving home and you see that Macy's has a sale and you've got to go in or something, right? And all of a sudden it's 4 hours later, it's the midnight sale, and you haven't eaten. I'm just saying, I don't know what that's like, but I know some of you may. So be prepared is what I'm saying. I might be out, I got an extra bar in the car, I'm good to go. Because if you're starving inside Macy's, you know, Cinnabon is just right around the corner, right? And it smells so dang good all the time. You're going to grab a Cinnabon, aren't you? Because you're starving. I got to have the energy to shop. There's so many good deals here. So make sure you have a plan. At home, create your microenvironment of health. Look in your book. It's going to walk you through what to take out of your home environment, the kitchen, the bathroom, the bedroom, the pantry, the refrigerator, and what to make sure you've got in there. Look at those things. Get your environment at home very clean. There's a reason why I do grind my own wheat. There's a reason why I have chickens. There's a reason why I just built a greenhouse. It's because I want to make sure that the food that me and my family are eating are very healthy. And I'm not saying you have to go, everyone, build greenhouses this weekend. All I'm saying is you start taking little steps based on where you're at right now. I'm a little further down the path on my journey than maybe some of you guys are right now. You're focusing on something a little different. And that's okay. We're all on the path at some point, and being on the path is the important thing. But you want to just start being more aware of your environment, of what's going on, and try to just systematically clean it up here and there as you can. Little at a time. Arm yourself with a shopping list. My wife tells me that every single time, because what do? Bring back all sorts of other crap. And I know that she's going to chew on me when I get home, and I still do it. When I have my list, I'm really good. I only bring 1 or 2 things back home I shouldn't. Stay on the outer aisles. What's on the outer aisles of the grocery store? Yeah, your produce, your meats, your dairy, the bakery there. But that's,
Sourdough bread.
Right. There you go, sourdough bread. Never go shopping when you're hungry. We just don't make good choices, do we? All right. I'm going to skip this. We don't have enough time to cover that. So keep in mind, choose all your carbohydrates from the green list. Arm yourself with that before you go shopping, right? Look at the things that are low glycemic on the green list and pick your shopping list from those items. Whether it's the fruits and vegetables, your carbohydrates, whatever it is, pick your stuff from there. Remember to serve your new healthy food choices on a 9-inch plate. Keep your portion control, and also maintain the proper portions. 50% fruits and vegetables, 25% protein, 25% complex carbohydrate. Okay, if you do that, you don't have to worry about how many calories did I just eat. Honestly, you don't. Portion control good, the right percentages, you're good. Select healthy fueling breaks for food. In other words, you want to eat 5 to 6 times a day. Make sure that you're eating good stuff regularly. And when you are on the program, phase 1 where you're losing weight, make sure you stick to your 5-in-1 program. Or if you're on one of the other programs like the nursing or the diabetic or the teen program, make sure you stick to what's there. Get to your goal weight. Go through transition like Tom's just finishing he turned 4-week transition into a couple extra weeks because we didn't tell him. So great job, Tom. But get through your transition, and then you can start to have a little more. Then you're going to follow the 9-inch plate rule with the carbohydrates, okay? All right, guys. Any questions? We've got about 3 minutes that we can answer questions. Either I was really confusing, because I know it wasn't that straight up. Anyone have any questions? Yes?
Yams. Okay, yams are so high in vitamins and nutrients.
Great, yeah.
Yeah, and everything. It was the only thing I keep down when I was real sick, but it's not on our list at all. So.
No, because it's high carbohydrate. So when we're on the weight loss phase where we're trying to get into fat burning, we need to control the amount of carbohydrates we have. Yams are higher glycemic, even though they're lower than potatoes, but the number of carbs they have in there will actually cause your body to not utilize fat as an energy source and switch back to wanting to use sugar. Our body does not want to burn this storage system. What do we like having our bank account full because it gives us safety and security, right? That's the bank account. Our body likes to have that storage system. It's just programmed to do that. So it doesn't want to give it up. It wants to use sugar more than it wants to use fat. In fact, it wants to burn muscle more than it wants to burn fat as well. So we have to make sure, that's one of the reasons why you want to make sure you're eating all 6 meals during the day. You got to get the right nutrients in you so that you're not metabolizing muscle. Make sense? Great question. Thank you. Any other questions? Okay, if you brought food to trade, first of all, if you don't know, especially for those of you who are new, you will find something you do not like. And that's okay. I know. Curtis, I know you haven't found anything yet you haven't liked. But you will find something you don't like, and that's okay. Bring it here because someone else here is going to love what you don't like. And you can just swap with them. Medifast has a wonderful exchange policy that we can take advantage of. It just takes some time, and you do have to ship your stuff back to them. They'll ship the new stuff back to you. It just takes some time. So bring it here, and if we're all bringing that stuff, we can just do it here, keep it nice and clean. And if you have stuff, we'll go out into the hallway out here to trade it out. If not, here in about 5 minutes and 25 seconds, 32 seconds, Brenda will be introducing our our program for getting on this path, for getting to a healthy weight, and how our Habits of Health system works. I appreciate you guys being here. We obviously have a lot of chairs that are empty, so bring friends who want to get healthy, okay? They don't have to be on our program to come to the class. They just have to want to get healthy. So thank you guys. Have a great week. It's going to be warm this weekend, so go get some